Good morning. Pardon Board is called to order. Today is Monday, September 30th, 2024. The time is 9:01 a.m. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Knoxon.
Present.
Ms. Stapleton.
Present.
Mr. Tillis.
Present.
Mr. Peak.
Present.
Mr. Prater.
Here. Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We will allow public comment on requests before any action item. In the first item on our agenda under regular business is review and approval of the minutes from Monday, September 9th, 2024. Those minutes are in your packet. Are there any corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion by Mr. Prater, a second by Mr. Freeman to approve the minutes from Monday, September 9th, 2024 as presented. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Our next item of business is consideration of applications for clemency. Mr. Wiley Dewey is our first case. We'll be asking him to come in. Morning. Good morning.
Good morning, how are
I
you?
want to be rude.
Rude with our backs to you.
Oh, that's okay. You'll be facing this. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Okay, Mr. Dewey, Mr. Phillips,
Yes, ma'am.
would you step up to the podium, please? Good morning, sir. Good, thanks for asking. We'd like Mr. Dewey, would you introduce yourself to us, sir? Tell us your name and your current mailing address, please.
Thanks, Wiley Dewey. 465 North Florida Place, Battery, Louisiana.
Okay, and counsel, would you introduce yourself,
Yes,
sir?
ma'am. My name is Skip Rose, Harry Rose Jr. I practice here at the reporter, 450 Laurel Street, 84.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me just, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge our guests who have joined us here also. We have Miss Mary Elizabeth Farrow, a sister, and Colleen Phillips, a friend. And Ms. Farrow, we'll call on you at the appropriate time. You've indicated you want to speak on Mr. Dewey's behalf. First, let me read some identifying information into the record, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Stapleton. The case has been assigned to her. She'll take the lead on the interview questions. We'll hear from the guest and Mr. Phillips at the end. After Mr. Dewey makes his statement, we'd ask you to close it out for us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Mr. Dewey, you're here this morning seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms. You were sentenced in the 20th Judicial District, reckless operation of a vehicle, which was a misdemeanor. In the 19th Judicial District, simple burglary of a pharmacy, 2 counts. You were sentenced in 1978 to 5 years. You also have theft, 3 counts. You received a 1-year sentence. Those sentences were both successfully completed. Is that information correct, sir?
Sure.
So before I turn it over to Mr. Stapleton, Mrs. Stapleton, excuse me, Mr. Dewey, why is it that you're seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms?
And I can't hear you.
Why? Go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, why are you seeking the board would like to know why you're seeking part of the restoration? I do. I like to hunt and stuff and be outdoors. And I'd like to be able to have the privilege back to have firearms to deal with, be with my friends and stuff. Just have a normal life.
All right, well, thank you, sir. We'd like to go ahead and hear from Ms. Farrow, your sister. Ms. Farrow, would you step up next to him at the podium and tell us whatever it is you'd like us to know?
I appreciate you having the opportunity to speak. My brother has overcome a lot of challenges in his life, some physical challenges. As you can see, he's got a severe form of arthritis. But he has met those challenges and lived a life that has allowed him to really fully appreciate life. Our mother lived to be almost 97 years old, and he was her primary caregiver. He took very good care of her, and the doctors, I'm convinced, believe that because of his good cooking that kept her going so well. He loved the outdoors, hunting, fishing, gardening. I just, he's lived a life of compassion. And I know that people really appreciate the favor of these elections. He has been a brother to me. And I know that this will be a tremendous amount. It's something I wish our mother could be here for, but we appreciate your consideration.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for being here. We appreciate your remarks. Mrs. Stapleton.
Good morning. Back to the podium. Yes, sir. I know that I see here that in your, you're asking for pardon and with restoration of firearms. And I know that in your youth, it says here 1977, it was a simple burglary of homes. What was going on during that time in your life? Because you got into other troubles, a series of burglaries in Baton Rouge. And so during that particular time, the latter 70s, what was going on that caught you? And how old were you?
How old am I right now?
No, sir, how old were you when those things were going on?
I think I was around 17.
That's what I thought,
18
yeah.
years old.
Young man. So what was leading you to get into so much trouble during that time in your life?
I think I just started hanging around the wrong crowd of people, probably not spending as much time in school as I should have, having too much time on my hands. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I don't want to be making up a bunch of excuses for my actions.
But then since 77, let's fast forward to West Feliciana and headlighting. What was going on? You're older then. And you're a felon with a gun. Because
I didn't have a gun.
you were in a vehicle with someone with a
We
gun?
were in a vehicle, we were shining a light at deer in a field, and some lights got behind us,
Right.
and they started following us, and then we ended up getting to a stop sign, and I took like a right or a left, I can't remember, and the vehicle started pursuing us, and then all of a sudden we started running from it, and then they turned on some blue lights, and it ended up being a gang warden.
Yeah, I know. Well, let me ask you about this, okay? Says y'all sped away. Now how old were you then? This was, 85. So fast forward some years, in your 20s,
I
yeah.
was probably,
So you're still getting in
man,
some trouble. Did they make it clear here was what the thing, when the policeman finally stopped y'all sped away, okay? All right, and when the wildlife and fisheries agent stopped y'all, he thought he heard a rifle, is what it was, some gunshots.
no, man, there was no gun in the vehicle at all.
Okay, so this is what it said he found, that they found several 22 caliber rifle bullets, and in James McCaw's, who's that, your friend?
Jay McKay?
McKay, yeah.
Man.
And they were found in his coat pocket, and the spotlight and the rifle was later found through the cooperation of James. And both suspects were arrested for hunting at night with a light and a gun from a moving vehicle on a public road. That's what it says. And they found marijuana, possession of marijuana.
They found two little roaches that were in an ashtray.
Okay.
But they never found no gun with us at all. When we went to court, we never had no gun. All they had was a light, that's all.
Did they plea bargain it down to just that and then just didn't press charges for it?
They didn't have anything, and they just plea bargained down to think it was, traffic violations.
Right,
I think that's what it was. I couldn't be positive.
right, but in the police report, it said something different.
In the statement, like, Mr. Adams.
Yes, please do.
Part, you obviously have more information than I was able to obtain. I was working off the rap sheet and looking at the violations that were reflected on the rap sheet and trying to track down some of these dispositions.
Got you.
Given the passage of time, if the district attorney's office couldn't help us, there wasn't any place to go with the courthouse that got into detail about plea on the hunting violation. Reflected as a hunting, the verbiage on the addendum, I just took straight off the rap sheet. So, and when I started inquiring about police reports and there's no bill of information, like, and there was no detailed information like at his trial, it was a little hard to piece a lot of that together, otherwise we wouldn't address it again.
So there again, you're still young. And headlighting deer, unfortunately, people do it. I mean, I don't know how, you know, was born yesterday, and a lot of people, friends in my family like to hunt. That's a good way to do it. So anyway,
It's easier that way. Right?
it's a lot easier that way. If you get caught by wildlife and fishers, you can lose your whole vehicle because they can take everything. So you were lucky on that one, or your friend was lucky on that one because they saw it differently. But so that's 40 years ago. So since then, whether or not, I mean, you say there was no gun, they say there was, you weren't charged with it. So since then, do you understand that as a felon, you were not supposed to have a gun, be around guns, even though you love hunting? And I know everybody in your family doesn't.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's been no problems. I know that since that time.
Yes, ma'am.
So today, we're at the point with 40 years since all of that kind of stuff went on. And I kind of wanted to get that cleared up, you know, as to what was going on.
Right.
And what have you been doing with your life these past 40 years, please?
What have I done with my life since then?
Yes, sir, because, you know, you got into some trouble as a young man.
I haven't been in any trouble. I've been a law-abiding citizen. I'm a commercial fisherman. And plus I mow yards and stuff. I just try to occupy my time. I'm basically retired, but I have to do something to stay moving to motivate myself to keep going. But I haven't been in any trouble or anything like that. I haven't had a speeding ticket or anything.
Okay, well, I didn't see any trouble since that time. Like I said, I know people do sadly get in trouble with as young people that then they move forward with their life, and that's the past. And so, but it comes back to haunt you sometimes, like on these types of hearings. So I'll pass it to my fellow board members. Do they have any questions?
Got a question.
Mr. Freeman.
You robbed a pharmacy. Were you using drugs back then?
Sir?
Were you using drugs back then?
No, sir.
And why then you had marijuana in the truck, but you wasn't using drugs when you robbed a pharmacy?
No, sir. I've never been on any kind of chemical drugs or nothing, never been busted for any kind of chemical drugs or anything in my life.
That's all I have.
You have a question?
Yeah, where do you live now?
Sir,
Where do you live now?
I live in Broadmoor.
And you say,
North Party Place.
and you say you're hunting, you do hunting now?
Sir,
You want to hunt?
I'd love to hunt.
What kind of hunting do you do?
I'd like to, I can't bird hunt anymore or squirrel hunt because of my neck, but I love to deer hunt, trap hogs and hog hunt.
You've done that before?
Sir,
You've trapped hogs and,
yes, sir. I have several traps at my house.
I see, okay, that's it.
All right. I don't see any other questions. Mr. Phillips, you want to close it up for us?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members. So you saw from the application and the statement, I think you get on the folks. Next month will be 42 years while he was discharged from his confinement sentence. If you go back and look at the history, he was convicted of, it's actually physician's office, simple burglary. And I attached the transcript of the hearing on the motion for new trial because there was a serious issue. It wasn't there, but it was a serious issue about identification. And I know Judge Covington wrestled with that and thinking about the new trial, settled on not granting a new trial. I think if you asked Wiley, he would say that maybe he did some of this other stuff, but he didn't do that, but he accepted his sentence, he served it, he was released on without any disciplinary record in the penitentiary. And from that time going forward, pretty much with except for the funny issue you just described, pretty exemplary life. I need, in the interest of full disclosure, to tell you also that Wiley's been my next door neighbor for 38 years. My wife, my beautiful wife, Colin, is here. You need some corroborating testimony from somebody besides me. She's who you want to talk to.
So y'all got skin in the game, huh? You got a good neighbor. Okay.
This is a really unusual little part of Homewood. We moved there 38 years ago.
Yeah.
August. When our second child, our daughter, was just a baby, and many of the people, including Wiley and his mother, were already living there out there, and some of them still. Yeah. So we've known, it's an important component to this because Wiley's not only my client, he's been a neighbor for all of years, and we've known them to be valued by local community, taking care of people. I know what Elizabeth said about taking care of his mom is absolutely true. You see his mom every day until she passed away. So I think in terms of what's happened over the last 38, 40 years, if you were looking for an example of someone who was rehabilitated, learned his lesson, the lessons of his youth, and have gone on to be a productive citizen, you can hold out to it. These other charges, as you might have suspected, went away when Wiley got sentenced. So the attorney said, not going to prosecute those. We know that that happens. So there's no adjudication of guilt. So the only felony charges dealing with doctor's office, pharmacy, and I think all of the other information is this application is not real complicated. It's easy to answer a lot of those questions, except for the digging here on some of the records. And I do have to say that the district attorney in Baton Rouge and West Virginia helped us as much as they could in finding these situations. And it's my understanding that the district attorney in East Baton Rouge is not opposed Wiley's application. So, as both his lawyer and his neighbor, I think Wiley has earned an opportunity to have the state say to him, you did what you needed for you to do. You're living a good life. We want you to be able to enjoy the privileges of citizenship, however much longer you're with us, and urge you to recommend favorable part of this is the kind of guy we want to be. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to.
Thank you very much for coming.
We thank you also for the opportunity to come in person to do this. You lose a little bit in translation, although the video is real good. But this was Wiley's. He wanted to be able to come and stand up here and let you see and talk to him and ask me for this.
Sir, we're glad y'all are here.
Thank you very much. So
Thank you very much.
Questions. Colleen was going to get up and tell you something if you want to hear from her. But I think she would tell you now, if you don't make her do it, she's just okay with that too.
Okay.
I think,
Okay, so she adopted my testimony.
okay, thank you,
If you
sir.
don't have any other questions, we respect.
Okay, we're ready to vote. Mrs. Stapleton?
Okay, well, my vote today is, even when you, the burglary in the pharmacy, there was no gun involved. And so there's been no gun involved in, a commission or a crime against an individual or anything like that, or any. So I have no problem with recommending a pardon with, full restoration of firearms.
Mr. Prater?
Pardon with restoration of firearms.
Mr. Freeman?
I just wanted to make a note that the guy that arrested you on the wildlife and fishery charge, he is the sheriff now in West Feliciana, and he is not opposed to your getting restoration bond with the
Yeah,
code.
Wiley actually mentioned that to me yesterday when we were talking about that. And I think that guy that supposed to be on the hunting bound is now the sheriff.
Yes, Brian Spillman.
You're on good terms with him, and he said yes, so thank you for that.
Okay, so I vote also to grant the restoration bond.
Mr. Taylor?
I concur.
And I do agree also, based on
Thank you all so very much, and we do appreciate the hard work and stations in there.
thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Have
Good
a
luck
good
today.
rest of your life and enjoy hunting. I hope that everything goes well with the governor and all this story.
Thank you very much. All right, good morning, Mr. Williams. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and current mailing address, sir. You're on mute. Can you unmute your microphone?
I'm sorry. My
There you
name is
are.
My name is Sidney Williams.
What's your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. 9129 Bushnell Lane, Bushnell, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71118.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Williams, let me introduce the pardon board to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my far left is Mr. Tillis, my immediate left, Mrs. Stapleton. To my right is Mr. Prater, and to his right is Mr. Freeman. I'm going to read some identifying information, Mr. Williams, into the record, ask you to confirm it, and then I'll turn it over to Mrs. Stapleton. Your case has been assigned to her. She'll take the lead on the interview questions. So, Mr. Williams, I have your DOC number as 520123. You're here this morning seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms. You were sentenced in the First Judicial District, Caddo Parish, in March of 2007 for 2 counts of possession of marijuana. You received a 2-year hard labor sentence that was suspended, and you were placed on 2 years of probation. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, would you answer Mrs. Stapleton, please?
Good morning, sir. I see that, as Chairman Renata said, that you want a full restoration with firearms. Pardon, with restoration of firearms. I misspoke. So I'm just going to get to the crux of the matter on this thing. Okay, so in 2004, well, in fact, between 1999 and 2020, you had a ton of vehicle violations, whether it be speeding, whatever, just all kind of stuff, suspension of driver's license. And so, in and of itself, one or two things is not a bad deal, but that kind of shows, I don't know, just a lack of who gives a darn about our laws sometimes. I mean, it was up through 2020, a whole bunch of them. You look like you never heard this before. Yeah, I read about.
I haven't heard it put that way, but I've definitely had several speeding tickets I know over my life. And I'm sure I've had at least a few times where my license was suspended for, I don't remember honestly, I don't remember the reasons, but I know it's happened on more than one occasion for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So then we're going to move forward to more serious things. 2004, you were charged with possession of marijuana, but it was possession of 60 pounds of marijuana. And
That's definitely not true.
That wasn't it?
No, ma'am. Who are we?
Sorry,
3 grams.
what does it say?
3
3 grams,
grams.
but somewhere, I don't know where I read. I gotta
I've
find.
never
Anyway.
had that much marijuana in my life.
Okay, so 3 grams, so excuse me. I don't know where I read that. I'm sorry. I see 3 grams here. All right.
That sounds about right.
Arrested with just marijuana. That's what that is.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, the aggravated assault with a firearm, 90 days in jail. What's that about?
That was actually a BB gun, and I wasn't actually shooting at a person. I was shooting at a can, and he thought that I was shooting at him because he was riding by my house on a bicycle. So when I shot at the can, he actually thought I was shooting at him, so he called the police, and that's how that happened. And I think that charge was dismissed, I want to say.
Yeah, a lot of times that's what happens. The charges get dismissed, but then they really, I do have it right here. I mean, how would this come about? 60 pounds of more marijuana. I know I'm not crazy.
Yeah, that is definitely news to me. I've never had that much marijuana in my life.
Maybe 60 days.
Yeah, you see here, you got possession, you got this, you got aggravated assault with a firearm. And it was
2004.
Yeah, 2004. Like I said, I know I'm not crazy. Shoot. So I don't know. You need to get that corrected, okay? It's on your route sheet. It's on your route sheet for 2004, and you got 2 years of probation, and it says possession of 60 pounds or more of marijuana, and then it's got the word tetra after it. I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but that's definitely not accurate.
Well, get with somebody.
And I've never even been told that before. Honestly, I've never even heard that before. So it's confusing me, honestly.
Okay. All right. Well, I got you. But I do see also found 3 grams of marijuana. So
yeah, that sounds accurate. I don't remember the exact amount, but I know it wasn't much for sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know that these records do get confused because same thing happened with my son one time. The last name was Tate, and they got, and I know when we used to people put criminal records on people, they'd find the first Tate, and then he had all kind of stuff under his name that wasn't true, but we got it straightened out. So you might want to address that because it does say that. All right, now let's go to 2005. And then I found again, possession of marijuana, second offense, felony, 1 year probation. And then it said illegal use of weapons, dangerous instrumentality. What was that? Was that a gun, knife? Because it didn't specify, it didn't say.
It was a gun, and I was told, the way it was explained to me, that I was being charged because I had drugs and weapons in the same place at the same time.
Well, that's a big doggone deal. Guns and weapons.
Yes, ma'am.
Especially since, first, when you said aggravated assault with a firearm, you're saying it's a BB gun.
Right. It was absolutely a BB gun, and the police officer took the BB gun. I don't know how it was documented. I guess I should have been more thorough with paying attention to what I was being charged with, but I never knew that it had anything to do with the amount that you said of marijuana that I had,
I want to
or
go back to that. That was in 2004 and get that straightened out because I do see three grams in one place, and then I see 60 pounds more in another place.
and that's
So
all referring to the same occasion.
9/2/2004.
Okay.
In
I'll
Shreveport.
definitely. Yes, ma'am. I've never heard that before. That amount, I've never heard that before. So I'll definitely look into it to see what I need to do about it.
Look at me, I'm enlightening you, huh?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so
Absolutely.
now, I know, what a shock, huh? So 2006, again, we've got possession of marijuana, third offense, you pled guilty, and 2 years of probation. And then on that one, they said that your license plate didn't match your vehicle registration, and you said there was a confusion with where you bought the vehicle, and that was all straightened out. You were able to prove you're innocent, you know.
Yes, ma'am. There was the loan or the lender. They had given me someone else's license plate and then given that person my license plates accidentally. So I was actually driving around for about a year with the wrong plates, and I didn't know until I got pulled over. And he was adamant that he thought my vehicle was stolen, even though I had all my insurance and registration, all kind of paperwork inside the vehicle that proved that it was mine, but I had to still go through the process. But I believe that was dismissed.
Okay. Okay, so then let's fast forward to 2008. Domestic abuse battery in Shreveport. Now it was pled down to simple battery.
Yes, ma'am.
5 days in jail. So tell me about that and tell me about the injuries. Clearly there was some.
No, there absolutely were no injuries. That was a situation between me and my wife. We had a dispute, and actually I didn't do anything wrong. She actually came at me, and I just stopped her from hitting me. I never hit her. I never hurt her or anything. And that, I believe, yeah, it was dropped down. I can't even remember exactly what it was taken down to. But
You spent 5 days in jail.
no, I did not stay in jail 5 days. I didn't go to jail at all. They didn't even arrest me. I just had to go to court.
Let me see what I can find on that one.
They came to my house and they spoke to me and my wife. And he explained to my wife that he couldn't make me leave or anything because that I hadn't done anything. So we had to go to court, and we both went to court, and that was the end of that. But I never spent any time in jail.
It was a $50 fine and cost,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
5 days in jail. So you paid your fines. Is that what it was?
Yes, ma'am.
Sentenced to $50 fine and cost, or 5 days in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you said he couldn't even arrest you or anything like that to do with your house. That ain't right. That's not how it works.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said, you said that he told you he couldn't arrest you, but yet you did plead guilty to simple battery, and you did have the option of fine or jail. So he must have, he charged you.
I guess so. But they did tell me that they couldn't take me to jail, and I actually didn't do anything wrong. And my wife, well, I don't think my wife even spoke at the court because I don't think she was subpoenaed or anything. I don't think she just came with me. But I definitely, with no injuries, no jail time, or I didn't do anything. I just went, but I guess I pled guilty because to get it dismissed. Once he told me I would only get a fine and court costs, but that was pretty much that. I definitely never hit her or hurt her in any way. We had a disagreement.
Married?
Yes, ma'am, we are happily married, thankfully.
Okay. Now that's good. That's really good. Okay, now you said you need this for your HVAC license. Tell me about that. I've never heard of that before. I don't know that you need that.
Well, I had been doing a lot of research, and someone had told me, I think it was a lawyer, but I may not be accurate on that, but I was under the impression that I had to have an expungement in order to be able to get my contractor's license to start my AC business. So I began the process to get an expungement, and then while talking to that lawyer, he explained to me that it wouldn't give me my gun rights back. So he told me that this option was better for me as far as going to try to get a governor's pardon. So that's when I began that process. I actually
Well-
started my business in 2020 and I filed for the, I think it was the expungement in 2020. Well, I think I did both of them in 2020, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you something. So you actually do not need a pardon for your HVAC business because you said you started it in 2020. So that's.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
And you really want restoration of firearms is what it.
Well, I didn't know if I needed it to be able to get the contractor's license until after I had already applied. At the time when I applied for this, I was under the impression that I needed it to be able to get a contractor's license. But I've since taken the contractor's exam and I failed it the first time by 3 points. So I'm scheduled to take it again next month.
So that's what's contingent on you getting the license is having the test, not whether or not you get a pardon for these felonies.
Right, definitely.
Right. So.
Well, at least that's what I came to understand later after I had applied for the pardon.
I understand and I believe you. Okay, and then the restoration of firearms, but we've got some problems with some assault charges here involving a firearm. So I am gonna pass it to my other, you got opposition. The DA's office, they're in opposition of it. And so I did want to mention that too. And
Because of the assault charge?
Well, she mentioned the marijuana arrest, numerous vehicle violations, domestic violence arrests, aggravated assault with a weapon. So she mentioned all the same things I did. We're gonna pass it along.
Questions?
No.
I see no other questions. Mr. Williams, is there something you'd like to say to us before we vote?
No, I don't think so. I just want to make sure I have an understanding of where I'm at in the process now and what I'll need to do, if anything, next.
Yeah, well, I think we're prepared to vote. Mrs. Stapleton will be voting first.
Based upon the things that I mentioned to you, especially the firearm charge and then the other charges, I do not recommend.
I'm sorry, can I ask, when you say
I do not recommend a pardon with the restoration of firearms. So my answer is no.
Mr. Prater.
I think that since the only charge you have is on third offense marijuana, which basically these days is, I would vote for the pardon, but no restoration of firearms. The domestic violence and the ag assault bothers me too much.
Mr. Freeman.
My vote would be to deny.
Mr. Tillis.
My vote would be to grant pardon with restoration of firearms.
Okay, Mr. Williams, for me, I think there's too much confusion in your record. I think you got some work to do to clear that up. Unfortunately, you were given that information that you didn't really need this to go through this process to get your contractor's license. I hope that didn't delay that too much for you. My vote today is going to be to deny, and I encourage you to go get your record straight and all that stuff that you disputed with Ms. Stapleton, get all that information corrected. You have the opportunity to reapply if you choose to do that. My vote today is to deny, but because you've received, you didn't receive 4 like votes, so the outcome of today's proceeding is that your application's been denied, sir. Good luck to you.
You received how many votes?
All right, good morning, Mr. Guillory.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself, sir? Tell us your name and your current mailing address, please.
Mark Xavier Guillory, 411 South 6th Street, Eunice, Louisiana, 70532. I'm sorry, 70535.
That's what we got. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let me introduce the board to you. My name is Cheryl Renatson. Well, I guess you could see our name tags. Mr. Tillis is seated to my far left, Mrs. Stapleton to my immediate left, Mr. Freeman to my far right, Mr. Prater to my immediate right.
Yes,
Mr. Guillory, I'm gonna read some identifying information into the record, ask you to confirm it, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Prater, so he'll take the lead on the interview questions. Mr. Guillory, I have your DOC number as 580983. You're here this morning seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms. You were sentenced in February 2011 in the 33rd Judicial District, Allen Parish, for possession of hydrocodone. You received a 5-year sentence that was suspended. You were placed on 4 years active supervised probation. Is that information correct?
yes, ma'am.
Before I turn it over to Mr. Prater, take a moment, please, and tell us why you are seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms.
Well, I did receive the, I guess, first time offender's pardon. And, I mean, I'm sure y'all have my history. If y'all don't, I've never had anything violent. I've never hurt anybody. I made a mistake after, getting injured in the oil field, and I was hooked on opioid pain pills for, I don't know, a couple years. I just had a rough time getting off of them, and happened to get stopped one night and had it on me. And since then, I mean, I've done what I was raised to do. I've been raised to be a good man, a good Catholic. I have 2 young boys that I would love to be able to start taking hunting. One's 16, the other one's 10. The 16-year-old has missed 9 or 10 years of hunting with his daddy. And that's how I was raised, taking my boys to the woods. And just, I mean, that's the main reason, protect my family also. But since that issue I haven't had any issues. I hadn't had so much as a speeding ticket since then. And it's been, I think, a little over 10 years.
All right, sir. Thank you. Would you answer any questions Mr. Prater has, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, Mr. Guillory. The drugs you were found with, was that for your personal use?
Yes, sir. It was actually, I had brought a friend or a cousin to, I guess, the doctor, and he split what he had with me. And it was actually still in his bottle with his name on it. And but yeah, I was using it.
Okay, and what have you done how did you get off of opioids? Now, I assume you're drug-free now.
Yes, sir. That arrest from the Allen Parish Jail, I went to a local 28-day rehab, and then I went on to Shiloh Christian Men's Rehab in Texas, and I spent, I think, 6 months there, and came home and just, I mean, that was it. I guess I needed more. I more or less needed time away from it and away from here.
Okay, so you had half a bottle of opioids that your cousin had gotten. That was,
Yes, sir.
you were addicted because of an accident in the oil field. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when was the last time you were arrested?
That was the last time.
And what year was that?
I think it was 2011. I think I'm not exactly sure on that.
Okay. And you've been drug-free and alcohol, well, drug-free, I won't ask about the alcohol, but you've been drug-free since then and crime-free, and never had any violence in your entire life?
No, sir.
Exactly. And those are questions. I'm not, that is true, correct?
Yes, sir. That is true.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Prater?
Okay, Mr. Guillory, what happened with this domestic abuse battery in 2011?
That was that was with who is my wife today, and it was pressed by her mother because I guess we were probably both a little drunk at the time, and nothing happened from it because nothing was ever done.
Yeah, see, it was
Neither,
just, I just wanted to know what happened. Any
yes,
weapon?
sir.
Oh,
No, sir. It was dismissed. I don't, it's been so long ago. I think maybe she tried to push me out the house, and I don't remember. It was just a fight, an argument we had, and her mother was there, and they called one of the local cops they knew, and they had, like I said, they arrested me, and then they let me go because nothing really happened that I did.
okay, thank you.
Your question?
And that was before or after you went to the rehab?
That was before.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you drink now?
Occasionally, not often.
Anything you want to say to us before we vote?
I no, I mean, well, I guess I went this route to try and save money in this economy. I was told I could have just did an expungement and had this done anyways, but I preferred to maybe go this route and have my peers judge me. Um, I'm a good man. I'm a good father. I'm a good husband. I have been for a long time. I had a small issue with something that came from an injury, and it doesn't define who I am. I'm a good Catholic. I go to adoration every Monday. I'm a Knight of Columbus. I'm active in my community. I coach football. I coach youth football. You know, I had a mistake many, many years ago that I shouldn't have done. And I don't think it should justify whether or not I'm able to take my kids hunting or defend my family.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to vote. Mr. Guillory, Mr. Prater will be voting first.
I would recommend to the governor, of course, it's his decision, but to give you a pardon with restoration.
Mr. Freeman,
I concur.
Mr. Tillis,
I concur.
Mrs. Stapleton. I concur. And I do also agree, Mr. Guillory. My vote would be pardon with restoration of firearms. So it's a unanimous vote, and we'll make that recommendation on your behalf to the governor. And listen, you chose the right route because just doing an expungement still doesn't give you the right to bear arms. So
Yes, ma'am.
good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a blessed day.
Good morning. Mr. Haynes. Would you introduce yourself, tell us your name and your current mailing address, sir?
My name
There you go.
is Calvin Hayes.
What's
My
your,
current address is 560, beg your pardon?
go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
My current address is 5609 Landmore Drive, Greenwell Springs, Louisiana, 70739.
Good, thank you, Mr. Hayes.
And you have my last name with an N in it, and it's just Hayes.
Yeah, that's what I have on my docket, Hayes. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
Mr. Hayes, let me introduce the pardon board to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my left, far left, is Mr. Tillis. To my immediate left, Mrs. Stapleton. My immediate right is Mr. Prater, and to his right is Mr. Freeman. Mr. Hayes, I'm going to read some information into the record and ask you to confirm it. We're going to then ask you to tell us why you're seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms. And Mr. Prater then will be taking the lead on the interview questions. Your case has been assigned to him. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayes, I have your DOC number 88316. You're seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms. You were sentenced in February 1978 in East Baton Rouge Parish for a manslaughter conviction. You received a 10-year sentence. Is that information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Would you take a minute and tell us why you submitted this application? Why are you seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms?
Well, I was seeking the request for firearms because I like to go hunting with my brothers, and that was the purpose of the firearm request. But the other request was that I would be able to obtain employment. I've been turned down on some jobs because of my record.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Would you answer Mr. Prater's questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayes, in
Yes,
1977,
sir.
you and your brother were charged with first-degree murder. And for a man that was killed, y'all both had guns. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you pled to manslaughter and served 10 years is all? Is that correct?
I served 3.5 years and I was paroled.
Okay. All right. And you're 72 years old now, is that correct?
No, sir. I'm 75. I'll be 76 this coming December.
Okay, that's Northwood math, and that's a long story. Okay, 76. What that's kind of, I mean, I'm not quite there, but that's kind of your story about needing this so you can apply for employment. Where are you going to apply?
I had a desire to work with my sister-in-law with the council now. And when they did the background check, it came up that I had a record. So I would work with the council on aging. And then they also came up where I couldn't contact with kids because of my record.
Okay. You realize that's a big leap for me to go from somebody that has actually killed somebody or been involved with killing somebody with a firearm and now wanting full pardon with restoration of firearms. That, you got anything you can tell me that's gonna push me back onto your side? Because right now I'm on the other side of the fence.
Well, I realized that I made a mistake and I regret my mistake. And all I would like to do now is just continue to live and a peaceful life and not get involved with anyone in any kind of conflict. And I haven't, if you check my record, I have not been in any type of trouble since that particular time. And the firearm that I request was just for the purpose of hunting. But if you deny me that, that's okay too. I just would like to have my record clear so I could if I want to work somewhere that requires a background check, I wouldn't be denied because of that.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Hayes, thank you, and I applaud you for living a life like the rest of us since you got out of jail.
Yes,
And,
sir.
it's good and all that. So that's all I got.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
You got something?
Yeah, I had one.
Mr. Phillips.
How long has it been since this happened?
That happened in 1977, if I'm not mistaken.
How many years is that since then?
That's been over 40 years.
30, 40 years. Is there
Yes,
something
sir.
wrong with trying to work at your age, 75? Do you feel like you should probably go somewhere and sit down?
No, sir. I just can't sit still. I have to be doing something
I
to
understand.
keep my mind focused right, and I have a family, I need to try to support.
That's good. That's pretty good. A lot of people don't want to work. And you like hunting?
I used to like hunting, but I can't hunt anymore
Why are you applying for a gun?
because I would like to resume hunting
You just
if I
said.
can. I
Oh.
like deer meat.
Okay, all right. I have no more questions.
All right, anything else you want to say
Okay.
to us, Mr. Haynes? Is there anything you'd like to say before we vote?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Mr. Prater will go first.
Mr. Hayes, I think you're a nice fellow and all that, but I just can't, somebody's life was lost. And we can't forget that. We can't cleanse that record and we can't deny. So my vote is to deny your request.
Mr. Freeman,
My vote would be to grant, but without restoration of firearms.
Mr. Tillis,
My vote would be to grant with firearms.
and Mrs. Stapleton.
My vote would be to deny because yes, I still believe that there's a man's life that was lost. It wasn't lost accidentally. And so my vote would be to deny for that reason, a murder with a weapon.
All right, Mr. Hayes, you've received two favorable votes, two votes that were not favorable to your application. So it requires four like votes. It would have required 4 votes favorable. You didn't receive that today, so today's outcome is that your application for a pardon with restoration of firearms has been denied, sir.
Okay, thank you for your time.
right, good morning. Pardon Board is reconvening. We're at Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women, the Jetson campus on Monday, September 30th, 2024. It's 10:11 a.m. With the staff there at LCIW, please introduce yourself for the record.
Morning, Kristen Thomas, Warden.
Tara P, ARDC Manager.
All right, thanks for accommodating us. Oh, do we have somebody else? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, say your name.
Master Sergeant White.
Well, thank you, Warden, for accommodating us this morning, and we have Ms. Williams for
Yes.
us. Ms. Williams, would you introduce yourself, tell us your name and your DOC number?
My name is Melissa Williams. My DOC number is 601196.
All right, thank you. Let me introduce the Pardon Board to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. We have Mr. Tillis seated to my far left, Mrs. Stapleton seated to my immediate left, Mr. Crater is to my immediate right, and to his right is Mr. Freeman. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize the folks who have joined us today. We have, I see there with you, your stepfather, Mr. Jones, who's going to be speaking on your behalf, and we'll ask him to do so at the appropriate time. Also, your mother, Mrs. Ruby Jones. We have by Zoom, Jana McCrae, Mona Vinson, Jay Adams, Ruby Jones, Candace, I'm sorry, Ruby is there with you. Candace Pitts, Camille Francis, and this says from Korea, Jasmine Turner has joined us also. So that's pretty awesome. First, let me read some identifying information into the record, Ms. Williams. Then we're going to ask you to take a minute and tell us why you're seeking this pardon or commutation of sentence. We'll hear from your stepfather, and we'll hear from the warden, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Freeman. Your case has been assigned to him. He'll take the lead on the interview. So, Ms. Williams, you are classified as a first felony offender. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence, having been sentenced in September 2012 in Bossier Parish for a conviction of manslaughter. Your mandatory release date, good time date, is November 5th of 2030. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Take a moment, if you will, please, and tell us why you are seeking a commutation of your sentence.
Well, ma'am, I feel like I'm a changed person. And I feel like I'm not living the life that I used to live anymore. And I feel like what I've done in the past, I don't want it to hinder me for the rest of my life. Even though it's something that I did and I take full responsibility for it, but at the time I was young and dumb, and I didn't care at that time in my life about anything. And now I'm reached a point to where my eyes are open, and I just, I feel like that I'm ready for a change. I know I don't deserve anything, but I just feel like, my whole life has turned. My journey was the journey for a reason, and I accomplished a lot, like my education. I have met people that have told me stories about things that they have done in life, and I want those things too.
Thank you. We appreciate your remarks. Mr. Jones, what would you like us to know? I assume you're speaking on behalf of the family.
It's actually going to be, you can step up
I'm
instead of
sorry.
Mr. Jones.
It's
Yes.
going to be my mom.
Hi, my name is Ruby Jones.
Okay.
I'm,
Go ahead.
I'm Melissa's mother. She is my oldest daughter. I was 13 when I got pregnant and 14 when I had her. So we grew up together. And she just
got around the wrong people. My son passed away in 2005, and when that happened, it was like, cause she's the oldest, and she just gave up and quit. She has 3 beautiful young adult children. One's in college getting her doctorate in occupational therapy. Her other son works for General Motors, and her other son works for another plant. And neither one of them not married. They haven't had children because they say they want to wait on their mom. She will have financial help from us. We live in Winsfield, Missouri. We have a beautiful home, place for her to stay and start a new life. I have friends who will also help find her a job and start over. We never can replace Kelly, and that was the deceased man, but we all knew and cared a lot about him as he cared about Melissa. That night, if she had just stayed home, but she didn't. She went somewhere and they got her drunk and gave her some drugs, and it went from there. I'm asking you guys to have mercy on her and let her come home and enjoy what she can. And I'm proud of her now because she does have a high school diploma, and she learned welding and horticulture here and so many things that she's going to need on the outside. Her anger she's been dealing with those issues, and she's a changed person. I see it when I hear it when I talk to her. The things that used to trigger her no longer triggers her. And I think she's also, being in here, was able to deal with the death of her brother, my son. So all I can do is hope that you guys show mercy and allow her to come to Missouri with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. We appreciate your comments. Warden Thomas, is there anything you can tell us about Ms. Williams?
Yes, ma'am. As Melissa had even noted, she has spent a great deal of her time more with education. Obviously attaining her high set was quite an achievement for her initially. And she really did just start working towards other educational and vocational training. So she has done welding, she's done NCCER, and currently in horticulture. So she's really trying to focus on improving her skills with vocational trades. Her last DB report was about 4 years ago. So she really has tried and stayed on a good track and just trying to stay focused on improving her time here. And I believe, if it gets to that point, I know it's a long ways away, but she would be working probably with Operation Restoration, more from a transitional housing standpoint.
Thank you very much. Mr. Freeman.
Okay. All right, Ms. Williams, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Ms. Williams, how long have you served on this 24-year sentence?
16 years, sir.
16, okay. So, of course, with Mr. Kelly, y'all always partied together?
Yes, sir.
Sounds like you had the house and everybody went to that house to party.
Not all the time, but sometimes, yes, I did. If I was called by my aunt, I came. And she would say, bring a drink for Kelly or her, and I would drop it off, and sometimes I would stay, and sometimes I would leave.
Okay. Now, your aunt, she was dating Mr. Kelly?
Off and on, yes, sir.
Off and on, yet he would still proposition everybody that was around?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So he kept trying to offer you money and give you money for probably a sexual favor.
Yes, sir.
And you and your boyfriend saw this, got mad, and y'all decided y'all were gonna rob him?
Well, he decided, he got jealous, and he decided that he wanted to make him pay for putting the money down my shirt and stuff.
Okay.
And, I went along with it because I know if I didn't, It will be a fight.
So, how did he actually die? What was it from? I mean, he was tied up and everything. I saw where you said you could hear him choking when you were leaving.
Yes, sir.
Suffocate, shoot him, stab him, or what?
No, sir, he suffocated, sir.
Okay,
But
so
I tied him, I helped Deidre tie him up, and I left out the room. Dee told me to go search for the money. When I came back, he was duct taped and everything. And when we got ready to leave, I still heard him mumbling like, you know, And when I got in the car, made it to my grandmother's house, I asked my sister to go check on him. And she called back screaming and hollering and said that he was gone. And I just freaked out. And Deidre took off. So.
what classes have you taken as the best classes?
I love horticulture.
Have you taken anger management?
Yes, sir. I have taken anger management, life healing choices, healing trauma, substance abuse.
All right, I see you've taken a bunch of classes, which is good. When did you take the anger management?
I took the anger management in, I think, 21 to 42.
I think you completed in 22.
22.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm looking at your disciplinary reports and I'm gonna tell you, I don't like what I'm looking at. I mean, you have a lot of fighting since 2010, 16. You have 5 fighting since 2016. What is a 30-0, Ward?
Let me see what the specific one was.
January.
As the it's not a 0, it's a no. Never seen a no.
Good.
She ran, she was on the yard with another inmate and then ran to try and fight with another inmate.
Okay, thank you, Warden. Your medium custody, you have a lot of support. We'll tell you, you have a lot of support from family, friends, and everyone else. You got a lot of letters, which is good. Were you on drugs at that time?
If my charge?
Of your charge, when you caught this charge, were you on drugs that night?
Yes, sir. I was on a lot of stuff to get pumped up and ready. Whatever Deidre, he said if I didn't, he was gonna make it worth my while. I tried to get loose as the goose, so I wouldn't even. But I was still, I couldn't get so high drunk so I couldn't remember. I was on a lot of stuff.
Okay. And you've taken some classes over there for drugs? I see what she took.
Took substance abuse.
Right. Are you still in AA and NA?
Yes, I'm going, but I don't go all the time because they always have events coming up, but I go as much as I can.
Okay.
It's a free service for anyone to walk in, so we just walk in.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Any question?
Just a couple. So, I mean, you were talking about the sex and everything, but what I read, and you can correct me if summary's wrong here, that actually the man had come into an inheritance of $80,000 and y'all really wanted to rob him for money. So it was premeditated. For
No,
money.
No, ma'am, it happened that night when Deidrick saw him putting money in my shirt. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. We getting him tonight." So I'm like, "Getting him?" And he was like, "Yeah, he want to disrespect me. We getting him tonight."
Where does the money come in? Because you did look for money.
There wasn't no money. Like, I went to go search for the money. I didn't find any money. The Edric took the money that he had in his wallet.
Right, and then threw the wallet out the window. But you were searching for money, like you just said.
Yes, ma'am.
So you did go there thinking you were gonna find money.
Yes, ma'am.
But y'all were gonna rob him.
Yes,
How old was
ma'am.
this man? No,
No, ma'am, I don't know how old he was.
and he was a friend. Y'all played dominoes with him all the time. Now, this summer
Just
you were
me,
talking, huh?
Just not Deidrick, just me. I used to go over there with him.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I read, that he was your friend.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
thought that, yes, he would proposition you, and it seemed like everybody that came along for sex, for money. And
Yes, ma'am.
you never took him up on it, didn't want to take him up on it.
No.
Okay. So let me ask you this. You said that you didn't have anything to do with trying him up, but this is how this reads, that Jackson hit White in the head. So he hit him in the head.
Yes, ma'am.
And Williams said she placed a black mask and duct tape around White's head. She and Jackson pulled White to the back of the bedroom by the extension cord while she searched for money but could not locate any. Was that a lie or the truth or what? That's on this.
No, that is somewhat of the truth.
Mhm.
But the black mask or whatever you say over his head, no, ma'am. I
You
was
didn't-
already going in to search for the money. I didn't even know what he was tied up with.
Okay. And then it said that White was making choking sounds, which that's been mentioned.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
called your sister next door and asked him to check on him and to untie him.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that you had to get drugged up to go do this.
Yes, ma'am.
What was coming? It was premeditated by both of y'all. Okay, just wanted to check that out, that I was reading it correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Did you, were you resentenced at some point along the way?
No, ma'am.
It's always been 24 years.
Yes, ma'am.
When's the last time you lost good time? Do you remember? Is that in 2020?
No, ma'am. I think it was in 17,
2016,
16,
17.
17, 12/30/17.
Right. That's, you lost 60 days then. Okay, I see.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm going to tell you, my concern is, there's some inconsistencies in what you're saying today and what's in the record, but I'm concerned about your write-ups. You know, I realized that the last one, you got 3 in 2020. One was for defiance, one was for fighting, and then that 30-0 that the warden explained to us. I mean, I see that you did do anger management since then, and I'm glad that.
Yes,
I'm a little
ma'am.
concerned about that. And was your 24-year sentence part of a plea agreement?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, may I speak, please?
Sure.
When I caught those reports, I was angry. I was young. I was still trying to find my way. I mean, I was still trying to protect me. I got shipped to a place that I knew nothing about. And I just constantly kept like having to defend myself. It was a different breed of girls over there, women over there at Tallulah where I was at, where I caught most of these reports at. And I just want to say I was foolish for doing those things.
So let's talk about your plea agreement. What were you
Okay.
charged with?
I was charged with manslaughter.
That's what you were convicted of, but what were you originally charged with when you were arrested?
Murder?
Is it
First
murder?
degree murder, second degree murder, second degree murder.
Um, okay, I just wanted to get in the record that you did enter into a plea agreement. Let me tell you about some opposition. The Bossier Parish law enforcement is opposed to any consideration for you. And there is opposition from the victim's family noted in the record. Is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to let my victim family know that I am very, very sorry. And I know I can't bring Kelly back, and I know it's hard to forgive people. All I want to say is, I'm sorry. Thank y'all for meeting with me.
All right, well, thank you for speaking with us today. I think we are prepared to vote, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, yes, I am. You gave a real good statement when you started off, and it sounds like you're totally on the right track. You have great family support, but I'm very concerned about your disciplinary, a lot of violence in your disciplinary, and then your rap sheet's even worse with a lot of violence. So, 16 to 24 years, my vote today with victim and law enforcement opposition is to deny.
Mr. Tillis,
I concur.
Mrs. Stapleton,
I concur.
Mr. Prater.
Concur.
All right, so you've received 4 votes to deny your application today, Ms. Williams. So your application for commutation of sentence has been denied today. Stay on your path. I think you've turned that corner.
I really hope.
You really have, and under the tutelage of board there, I think if stay right up free, reapply if you can when you're eligible to do so. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. Mr. Tircuit. We have Jason Tircuit with us. You'll see if he's there. There you are, Mr. Tircuit. Good morning. Are you still on mute?
Oh.
Yeah, you're still on mute. Mr. Tircuit, can you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and a mailing address. Once you find your mute, unmute. Oh, here. Can you tell us your name and current mailing address? Oh, I can see you telling us, but I can't hear you. Maybe you can put him on the phone. Introduce yourself, tell us your name and current mailing address. You're gonna have to mute your other device. Okay, now, try that.
Good morning, my name is Jason Tircuit. My current mailing address is 1631 Cobblefield Circle, and that's Tequila, Georgia, 30019.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tircuit. Is this setup gonna work for you, doing this by the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me introduce the pardon board to you. Mr. Tillis is seated to my far left, Mrs. Stapleton to my immediate left, Mr. Prater to my right, and Mr. Freeman to his right. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Let me read some identifying information into the record, Mr. Tircuit. I have your DOC number as 767-893. You're seeking a pardon with restoration of firearms. You were sentenced in Orleans Parish in 1989 for theft between $100 and $500, and you received an 18-month probation sentence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you just take a moment? Mr. Tillis has been assigned your case, but before I turn it over to him, would you take a moment and tell us why you are seeking this pardon with restoration of firearms?
Seeking restoration of my, well, I've had my record expunged, and I'm seeking firearm restoration, because I currently live in Georgia. And, I just want to have a firearm to protect my family in case of any type of emergency. Since my arrest, I've attended school, I've graduated with my bachelor's degree, I've graduated master's degree, and I've also graduated my specialist in education. Currently, I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching for 26 years. And I took my experiences, I took it as a learning experience. I also use it as a teaching experience for the inner city youth that I encountered. And I pretty much put myself in their place and tell them that, once you get a record or once you're arrested, it's not over, because some people think that it's a no-win once you get caught up in the system that you can't get out of. It's wrong door. But there is a way out if you want the way out. You have to, honestly seek change and be the change agent in other people's lives.
And you're at work today?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm glad you had the opportunity to come out and speak with us and that we were finally able to get in touch with you. We were worried we were going to miss you today.
I was worried. This has been a long process.
Yes.
Some years. And I've been inquiring, and the case manager hadn't even given me the information, but it caught me totally by surprise when I got a text this morning saying that I'll get to Zoom.
Yep. Well, you're here and I'm glad of it. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Tillis. Would you answer any questions he may have?
Hi, Mr. Jason. How are you?
I'm well, and yourself, sir.
Good. I think you've done well. You've accomplished a lot of things, and what you're doing is really good. And I hope you keep up the work. I'm not going to go back. I went through your case. I'm not going to bring up what you did. How long has it been since that happened?
It's been 89. It's been over 25 years.
Okay. Well, why do you think you need a gun? I'm not hot on guns.
Well, I'm from the military, and for my safety, there's a lot of, unless you've been watching the news, Appalachia High School is 10 minutes away from my home. And I pass the school every time I go to this Mexican restaurant. And the kids that I deal with, a lot of them, have parole officers and have to check in with their officers. And, I try to get into their mind as much as I can with a lot of stuff they don't share. And a lot of things that may happen in the community they bring into the school. So the way our school is set up, it's set up in an evolved system that kind of tries to identify any weapons, but just by speaking to the kids, they plant the weapons by a tree before school, they retrieve it after school. And I can't take a weapon on school grounds per se, but they're in the process of trying to arm teachers. That's some discussion that they have in the state. Because right now we only have one weapon in the school. That's our resource officer. So should something happen, school, the way the school is set up, it's just wide open. And we haven't engaged in any type of, terrorists entering the building. We haven't had any drills. It's that. But, I just want to be proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, I understand. And I guess when situations like that happen, we really have to go to the law enforcement to help us. And sometimes they're late or they don't get there in time. But sometimes if you take matters in your own hand, it makes it worse. But I thought at some schools, they do allow teachers to have guns, and maybe they're going to get that sooner or later. But I have no more questions.
Any other questions? I don't see any other questions, Mr. Tircuit. I want to thank you for your service as a Marine and for your information in the record. There's no opposition that's been expressed. So I think we are ready. We're ready to vote. Mr. Tillis will be voting first.
My vote is to grant with firearm.
Mrs. Stapleton?
I concur.
Mr. Prater?
Concur.
Mr. Freeman.
I concur.
And I also concur, Mr. Tircuit. So on your behalf, we're going to make the recommendation to Governor Landry for a pardon with full restoration of firearms. Good luck to you, sir. Good
All right,
luck.
thank you.
All right, pardon board is reconvening. We're now at Claiborne Detention Center on Monday, September 30th, 2024. It is 10:51 a.m. Would any staff there at Claiborne introduce yourself for the record? Sorry, you're still on mute.
LERIN RHEA.
All right, thank you so much for accommodating us. Well, you have staff in there with you?
No, ma'am.
You're by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us your DOC number, Mr. Ray. How do you pronounce your last name?
RHEA.
RHEA.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your DOC number?
Number 532165.
All right, Mr. RHEA, can you see our name tags so I can forego the introductions of the pardon board?
No,
tell you
ma'am.
what,
I can't make them out.
Yeah, my name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my far left is Mr. Tillis. To my immediate left, Mrs. Stapleton. To my right is Mr. Prater, and to his right is Mr. Freeman. Mr. Freeman has been assigned your case, so at the appropriate time, he's going to take the lead on the interview.
Okay.
I want to acknowledge you have some folks that have joined us by Zoom. You have Ahmad Parker and LERIN RHEA. Both who want to speak on your behalf. We also have joining us by Zoom is a representative from the District Attorney's Office who will also have some comments at the end.
Okay.
Ms. RHEA, let me read some identifying information into the record. I'm going to ask you to confirm it. You are classified as a second felony offender. You are seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in December 2007 in the 24th Judicial District, Jefferson Parish, for second-degree kidnapping. You received a 25-year sentence. You have a good time release date, March 20th of 2026. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Tell us, first we'll hear from you. We want you to tell us why you are submitting a commutation of your sentence. We'll hear from your family members, and then we'll start the interview process, and we'll ask the DA's office to close it out for us. Okay. So tell us why are you in jail, and why do you think we should grant you some relief today?
Good morning, first of all. And I'm in jail on a second-degree kidnapping, as you all know, serving a 25-year sentence. I've been down 19 years and 4 months, I believe. I believe I should be granted a clemency because I'm not the same 25-year-old person that committed this crime. I've come a very long way, and more than anything, I've been nothing but remorseful and regretful for any part that I've played in that committing that crime. I've dealt with this every day for the past 17 years, and I wish there was a way that I can turn things around, but I can't. All I can do is try to better myself the way that I've been doing and hopefully get this chance. I'm always working on myself, always. When I was at Tallulah in Madison Parish, I was one of the top trustees there, if that's worth anything. And I was also kind of liaison between the COs and the inmates whenever anything went wrong. I started several programs, if that's on the file, as far as religion-based. I helped start the Christian ministry program under Chaplain Richard Doyle over there, and I also helped start the Islamic program. This is not who I am. I own up to my mistakes, and I won't even call them mistakes, bad decisions, because I knew what I was doing and I went in and I did it. I can't make up for it, but I want you all to know I am redeemable. I'm not just a throwaway. I have a lot of people who really love me and depend on me. And like I said, once again, to the family, the victim, I really do apologize, and I'm sorry for my actions, and I hold myself accountable. Thank you.
Well said. So let us hear from your brother first, Latrell.
You have to unmute.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
All right. So I'm Latrell RHEA. I'm the older brother of LERIN. So he has a lot of family support that will, if you guys is able to be granted release, that will back him, whether that be financially, just to be stable. One, for his two kids, but two, from a family perspective, we're here. And I mean, I know there were some letters that were received. We all also wanted to make sure that today that I, spoke on behalf of my mother who wasn't able to, but in the instance of where her support is and others in our family are, to support him upon his release, if that is so granted. But I do appreciate you guys hearing me out.
All right, well, thank you for speaking with us this morning. Mr. Parker, could we hear from you, sir? You're still on mute? No, no. Still can't hear you. He is unmuted. It says you're unmuted. Still cannot hear you. No, sir. No, we can't hear you. She's going to call you. There's an indication that we do see that you have unmuted, but we still cannot hear you. She's going to give you a call. All right. We're going to take it over the phone. So go ahead and tell us what you'd like us to know.
My name is Mark Walker. I'm veterinarian. I'm gonna say probably 6 years prior to, or maybe longer than that, prior to this incident. I was a neighborhood barber, so I'm not up to much everybody in neighborhood. I met him, we got cool. Later on down the line, I realized, wow, we ended up being cousins. So it'll get really cool. Start hanging out a lot. I know his character. I mean, he's a really good guy. It's just a bad situation he was in. Prior to that situation, I was kind of tight. And at the time, my wife now, she got pregnant. So that's why we kind of drifted or whatever. All my focus kind of went into his head. But he's a very powerful and simple person. He's always stuck up to everybody. I don't really have anything good things to say about him. We miss his family, this is him. I haven't seen him in forever. I think in Texas now. I was hoping that it's not my understanding. I don't know.
All right, Mr. Parker, we're losing the signal. It's breaking up really bad, but we did hear that you're in support. So we're going to move on and start our interview with him.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Mr. Lee, how old are you?
I'm 44.
Okay, and how long have you been in jail on this charge?
19 years and 4 months.
So how old were you when you committed this offense? 25?
Yes, sir, 25.
Okay, have you gotten your GED since you've been in prison?
I had my GED prior to coming to prison, but I have been enrolled in 8 semesters of Ashland University.
This is a big question I got. Why did you lose 414 days of good time?
Unfortunately, I was at Tallulah for almost 13 years. And be honest with you, it's a spacing thing. And as soon as I moved from where I was at, I've never had a write-up again. If you all are familiar with the history of Tallulah, it's chaotic. And I slept in the area that they refused to move me from. And I tried to remove myself several times, the right way, the correct way, and they refused to move me. So I kept getting wrote up for it said, I believe it was cell phones. I never owned a cell phone, but I kept getting wrote up because of the person that slept over me. And as soon as I was able to move, as you can see on the record, I've never had another write-up again. And that took 6 years before they would even allow me to move from a different bed to a different dorm. And I've never had a write-up under any circumstances ever since.
Okay. And so tell me, what was your role in this kidnapping? I've seen some different statements from you, from her, from the other guy, Mr. Signal. What happened?
First off, I went in unknowing what was going on. And once I saw things unfolding, that's where I fault myself, because I saw it and I didn't do anything about it. I accept full responsibility for that. And even afterwards, I didn't go to the authorities. I accept my fault. I could have done something before everything snowballed, and I didn't. I was asked to drive to one location, and while in the process of going to that location, they asked me to make a stop. And once I did, that's when all of the other stuff transpired, and they brought Mr. Lawrence to the vehicle, and he looked me in the face the way that I'm looking at you all, but in person. And I didn't do anything, and I'm wrong.
You're saying you didn't have the gun?
I never had a gun, never owned a gun.
And you didn't get out the truck and make him get in?
No, sir. That was Mr. Signal.
The Signal wasn't there. Y'all had dropped him off because this guy knew him.
No, Mr. Signal was in the bed of the truck. Mr. Signal was in the bed of the truck.
So he's the one, he jumped out the bed and put the gun on the guy and told him to get in?
Melanie Ann Brown walked Mr. Lawrence to the truck. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Melanie
sir.
Ann Brown walked him to the truck. I'm still sitting in the truck. Mr. Signal jumps out the bed of the truck. Mr. Signal had a gun. I've never had a gun in my life. And when I saw everything unfolding, like I said, I accept my fault in that. I didn't do anything, and I could have.
But did he get in the back of the truck?
He got into behind my passenger seat. I had a quad cab, I believe it's called. And he put him back there. When he laid him on the ground, well, on the floor of the truck, he sat back there with him. I was the one driving. There was no way that Melanie Ann Brown was in the passenger seat. I was driving, and he still had someone in the back with him that he admitted.
All right, now, but you said that he was in the bed of the truck, right?
Yeah, Mr. Signal was in the bed of the truck on the way there.
Something getting ready to go down.
Excuse me, I couldn't make out what you said.
So you knew something was getting ready to go down, because ain't nobody gonna go get in the back of the
Yes,
bed.
sir. Yes, sir. At that point, I did.
Okay. When did he get in the bed of the truck? When y'all pulled up to the store, or you been riding back?
When we pulled up to the store.
All right. So Mr. Lawrence personally identified you, so he's the victim in the case. But I want to note for the record that he is very opposed. He still has burn marks on him, and I mean, he definitely went through a terrifying incident. I mean,
he didn't deserve.
Were you at the house with them at all when they were calling for the ransom?
Yes, sir. Melanie left and went to a bar or something and made one call and came back.
Right.
And that's why, like I said, I accept my fault in not doing anything.
Okay. Had they promised you any money out the kidnapping if the ransom was paid?
Yes, sir. Mr. Signal did himself.
Okay. I'm looking at your rap sheet. Okay, I see you had a sexual battery charge. What was that about? You got sentenced and found guilty on it.
I had sexual battery and I had unauthorized use of an automobile in 1999. I was 18 years old. I had sexual contact with someone that was 4 years younger than me, I believe.
And what about the battery on a school teacher?
Verbal battery. Verbal battery, yes. I had words with Miss Delosa Mocklin. I remember the school teacher name. She was my English teacher.
And you had simple burglary also. Okay.
As a teenager, I
Were
was.
you on any drugs, anything at that time?
No, sir. I don't drug. I promise you, I don't drug.
Okay, so you've been in a parish prison. How long you stayed in parish prisons?
I did 3 years and 4 months for the sexual battery and the unauthorized use of automobile.
No, I'm just asking, how long have you been, since you've been incarcerated on this charge?
Oh,
have you ever been to a state institution, or it's always been?
Always been parish facilities, from Jefferson Parish to LaSalle to Madison to Riverbend to here, which is Claiborne Parish.
You have lots of support. I want to note that. And like I said, you have victim opposition, you have law enforcement opposition. Looks like you've done right a little bit less than 80% of your time. I have no further questions.
Any other questions? I made a note. I wanted to tell you, Mr. Rhea, that I made a note. College transcript, great personal achievement. So congratulations on that. That was included in our record. But I would like to ask you, you have a good time date of March 20th, 2026, and you're seeking a commutation of your sentence. What exactly are you asking for?
Well, I actually filed 4 years ago. I understand COVID slowed the process of a lot of things. I just would like to, it's my fault that I missed out on all of my life and my children's life. My daughter recently turned 21. My son is 20. I just wanted to try to be home a little bit earlier and spend time with them. I mean, no one knows when that number's going to come. But I would just like to return home to my family a little, sooner than later, if possible. And I've tried to do my best to make sure that I stay on the right path the entire time that I've been incarcerated. And I'm not sure if you have gotten the letters of support from the lieutenants and the captains that I've always worked under from the 3 different facilities, but the paperwork from my past is not who I am. Those are just some terrible decisions that I made. And like I said, I own up to all of them. I regret everything that I've done. And I'm just hoping that you all can see that I'm redeemable and I'm worth giving a chance to.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to ask the DA's office to close it out first. Mr. Meyer.
Good morning, Randall Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish.
Good morning.
We're opposed to his request for commutation of his sentence. Looking back at his arrest history, as y'all went through it some, they had an assault, sexual battery, assault on a teacher, sexual battery, second-degree battery, simple battery, and then the second-degree kidnapping charge. I tried to find out about his prison record and wasn't able to because the record indicates that he lost 414 days of good time, but I didn't see anything with regard to disciplinary reports that as to why he lost all that good time. Mr. Rhea says that he never got another disciplinary report once he left Tallulah. Not sure when that is, but the record does show that he did have a disciplinary report when he was going through those courses, those educational courses. I don't know In his application, Mr. Rhea says that he had one disciplinary report. I don't know if that's the same disciplinary report that he had during the educational courses or not. The record, there's no DB history in there showing what disciplinary reports he's actually had. And I'm concerned with Mr. Rhea's statement of the facts in this case. It doesn't appear to me, from what I've seen with the police report, that he's being honest with the board of having no participation. His living girlfriend at the time stated that he was involved in the planning of the kidnapping, and that they left the house with the intention, and Mr. Rhea knew this, and the intention to go and kidnap Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence positively identified Mr. Rhea as the person who exited the truck with the gun and forced him back into the truck, which is completely different than what Mr. Rhea states happens. And Mr. Signal was never charged with the crime from what I see. Looking back at the records, it appears that he had an alibi that was checked out and was confirmed, and he apparently, from what I'm seeing, was not in the truck when the offense occurred. He was not charged. Now, Mr. Ray's girlfriend was charged. She failed to appear in trial, and there's an attachment that remains open for her, even to this date. So for those reasons, we're opposed to his request for commutation of sentence. And additionally, the victim opposition and the fact, I believe, as Ms. Bernatza stated, he's got a good time date coming up relatively soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is the panel prepared to vote? Mr. Freeman?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Ray, I look at your case, and the thing that really concerns me is the fact that he just brought up. The witness said you the one that jumped out, put the gun in his face, told him to get in the truck. And the alibi for Mr. Signal was that he was not even at the location because it was premeditated and they knew that he would recognize him. My vote today is to deny criminal history and law and victim opposition.
Mr. Tillis?
I concur.
Ms. Stapleton?
I concur.
Mr. Prater?
Concur.
My vote is to deny based on the proximity of your mandatory good time release date. You have a release date. So my vote today is to deny. So it's a unanimous vote, Mr. Rhea. Your application for clemency has been denied.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna call you.
The pardon board is reconvening. We're at Louisiana State Penitentiary. It is 11:20 a.m. on Monday, September 30th, 2024. Before we get started with Mr. Burkett with the staff at Angola, please introduce yourself for the record. Are y'all still on mute?
Yes, good morning. How you doing? Deputy Warden Ken Grimio, Reginald Laverow, classification.
Jane Babel, offender records.
Great, thank y'all for accommodating us today. And Mr. Burkett, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Name is John Burkett, 400-507.
All right, Mr. Burkett, let me introduce the pardon board to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Mr. Tillis is seated to my far left, Mrs. Stapleton to my immediate left. To my right is Mr. Prater, and to his right is Mr. Freeman. We have on the phone with us, she was having trouble connecting to audio by Zoom. We have your mother, Ms. Jane Setta, on the phone with us. She wants to speak on your behalf, and we're going to talk to her in just a moment. But first, Mr. Burkett, let me read some identifying information into the record. Mr. Burkett, you are classified as a first felony offender. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in 1998 in Orleans Parish for attempted aggravated rape, aggravated crime against nature, 2 counts. You received a total of 70 years. You do have a parole eligibility date, which has passed. That was in March of 2016. You did have a parole hearing in October of 2015. You were denied parole at that time. And your mandatory release date, that's your good time date, is November 23rd, 2041. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Mr. Burkett, before we speak to your mother, we'd like for you to tell us, why are you seeking a commutation of your sentence? Why are you here, and why do you think we should vote favorably for you today?
Well, I think I'm seeking it because, ma'am, I feel that I've changed. I'm not the same person who I was. And I basically feel that y'all, I can have a chance, give me a second chance. A second chance to live life how it's supposed to be lived and not do like I did before.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. We're going to ask your mother, Miss Jane Setta Herbert, to tell us what you'd like us to know, ma'am.
I need to come home that he served enough time. He is currently having a degree in the ministry. He's gentle and kind and honest. And he has overcome 2 illnesses. It's been a long time. He's an honest person. He's been good to his fellow inmates and a very respectful man. And I want him to come home. I'm sorry, I was on Zoom this morning so to end the call, and I would receive a text message. So I'm about 3 minutes from my house, but I want him to be released. He is definitely a changed person, and he is currently on medication that will help him. Prior to that, his confession presented to friends, and I want him home. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad we were able to speak with you on the phone. Do you need me to leave the speaker on so you can continue listening to the proceedings while you're trying to get home?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Warden Grimion, is there anything you can tell us about Mr. Burkett before we start our interview?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to note that he was incarcerated since 1998
when he arrived over here in Angola. Since then, he's only received one DV report, and that was back in 2008, and that's pretty good. He's went through several programs, which includes sex offender treatment. What I understand, he went through all 4 phases of that. Also, anger management, substance abuse, victim awareness. And by talking to him briefly, he has received a high school diploma prior to coming in to Angola.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Craig.
Yes, sir. Mr. Burkett.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Getting close, but it's still morning. I see that you've done a number of good, positive things since you've been there, and I appreciate that. And I'm having trouble getting over whether you did this or not, as far as your confession goes. Did you, in fact, have sex with an 18-month-old?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you've been incarcerated. You took a plea bargain, and it was amended to attempted aggravated rape and aggravated crime against nature, 2 counts. You were sentenced to 50 years and then 20 years, 70-year total.
Yes, sir.
You served of that 70 years. You hadn't served half of it yet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So tell me, and this will be all I got to say. I know everybody deserves second chances, but it's pretty serious when you ask for a second chance around your 18-month-old. Why should I trust you around a kid?
Well, sir, as I said earlier, I've changed. I've become a Christian, and I accepted Jesus into my life. My thoughts not my way. My thoughts are not the same. My actions are not the same. I don't even. Let me say this. At one point in my incarceration, I was a vice president over a club, and I had another guy who pretty much was on the same charge I was. Not on the same charge, but he's into that stuff with the kitty pictures and so forth. I fired him. And when I fired him, I got in trouble with the warden because I couldn't fire him. I'm saying all that to say I've changed. I don't do that anymore. That's the best thing I can say. I don't do it anymore. I don't even think those thoughts anymore. I get sick of watching other people do it, let alone hear about it.
How old were you when this occurred, Mr. Bryant?
26.
And how old are you now?
55.
Okay. Again, I want to tell you, I'm glad to hear what you just said. That means a lot to me, but I don't know if it means enough. That's all.
Any other questions?
I've got a question. How'd you get caught?
I confess.
Who did you confess to?
To the police.
You just went to the police department and said this had gone on for, 4 months or something? That you were babysitting for your niece and that you had raped the child? I mean, you just went there to do that? Or
No, I didn't go there to do that, ma'am. What happened? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
How did it happen that the police found out about this?
Okay.
You said once questioned, maybe you confessed, but how did it happen? It was a baby. Did somebody walk in on y'all? Something like that?
No, ma'am. It was a while after that happened that I confessed. More like a few months or so.
Huh?
And then I confessed.
Your conscience started hurting you, so you went to the police department and told them what you did to the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh.
And then
I got a question. I mean, in your investigation, you didn't admit guilt when you were first arrested. So, and you saying that you went turn yourself in, nobody reported.
Yes, sir.
What did you?
I'm kidding. I just
What did
confused me.
what did your mother mean by coerced? I think she said coerced confession. What did she mean by that?
What happened was prior to my confession, I was engaged to get married. And the lady who was supposed to marry, I was going to marry, her sister was a Christian. And she was the one that led me to Christ. And that's when I confessed because as you say, my conscience was bothering me. And my mother feels that I was coerced by the lady who led me to Christ, which I wasn't. I did it on my own. Matter of fact, I had called the police station myself a few times for them to come out before they came out. Because what happened was I would call on the phone, and then we got talking, arguing, and everything, and hung up the phone, called, hung up, called the police. Finally came over, and that's when I confessed to them.
Pretty.
All right, Mr. Burkett, this application has been pending for some years now. I think you submitted it back in 2020, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you ever applied for a subsequent parole hearing, what we call a rehearing? Since you were denied in 2016, have you ever asked for another hearing?
Yes, I did put in for parole hearing. Yes, ma'am.
And what happened to that application?
Nothing. I never got an answer to it.
An answer? Well, I'm gonna tell, and first I noticed you're a Navy veteran.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that service. I do want to acknowledge that, you are a Bible college graduate. You've done anger management and thinking for change and some really good programs. And I made note in a letter, you're a tutor now. Are you still a tutor?
No, ma'am. They shut down the horticulture program.
Oh, well, in a letter that your mother wrote, she says your divine purpose is teaching and service. And it looks like you were doing some of that at the present. I'm going to be honest with you. The only relief that I will grant when I consider a commutation of sentence is to make somebody parole eligible. And you've already got that mechanism for relief, which is unusual, really, considering your crime. So I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Prater will be voting first.
Yes, sir. I'm going to vote to deny this request due to the seriousness of the crime, the length of time yet to be served in your sentence, and the fact that you are parole eligible, as the chairman adequately points out. So your relief would be to apply for.
Mr. Green?
I concur for the same reason.
Mr. Tillis?
I concur.
Ms. Stapleton?
I concur.
All right, and my vote is to deny based on the parole eligibility that you already have. Thank you for the good work that you're doing there at Angola, but write us back. I'll try to check on your parole status to see if we have that letter pending somewhere, but do write us another letter asking for parole rehearing. Good luck. All right, Mr. McGee, there you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. McGee. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
My name is WILTON MCGEE, 370747.
All right, Mr. McGee, let me introduce the pardon board to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated all the way to my left is Mr. Tillis. To my immediate left, Mrs. Stapleton. To my immediate right is Mr. Prater. And to my far right is Mr. Freeman. Let me acknowledge some guests that we have here with us today. We have Mr. Hunley with the Parole Project. There with you at Angola, your mother, Ms. Georgia McGee, and your nephew, Brian McGee. We also have here representing the victim, Neosha Williams and Davelin George, both who will be speaking in opposition, and we'll call on them at the appropriate time. First, Mr. McGee, I'm going to read some information into the record. I'm going to ask you to verify that information. We'll take a moment and ask you why you believe we ought to vote favorably for you today. Then we'll hear from the folks who want to speak on your behalf and the warden. We'll have our interview questions with you, and then we'll hear from the victim's family before we vote. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. McGee, you're here seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 19th Judicial District in East Baton Rouge Parish. In October 1996, you were sentenced to life for a second-degree murder conviction. Is that information correct, Mr. McGee?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Take a moment, sir, and tell us why you think we should vote favorably.
First, I want to acknowledge the family of my wife, Pam. And I want to let them know that I'm sorry for causing them pain and suffering. And I take full responsibility for my actions. And to my son, Stephen, I want to let him know that I love him. And I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart for taking his mother from him. And I'm not deserving of anything. All I'm asking is for mercy. All I know, all I can show you is the person I am today. And all that I've done since I've been here. I done went through classes and programming to make that change.
Thanks, sir. Thank you much.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
move to the Parole Project, Mr. Hunley.
Good morning, Andrew Hunley, appearing on behalf of Louisiana Parole Project. To let the board know, in the event that Mr. McGee is released from prison in the future, our organization commits to provide reentry support to him. In our screening process, it was an easy decision for us to take Mr. McGee as a client for a few reasons. One, he's been very straightforward in taking responsibility and accountability for the crime that he committed. And also during his incarceration, he has an outstanding work record and disciplinary and programming record. So it's our opinion that if he is released with our support, he would be someone who would be very low risk to reoffend, but more likely to be very successful if he received a second chance. So we just wanted the board to know that we stand by him, and we know it's a long process, but if he were to be released, we would be here to provide him reentry support, including housing and employment support. Thank you.
All right, and then we'd like to hear from Ms. Georgia McGee.
You can sit right there.
Okay. Well, good morning. I'm speaking in behalf of my granddaughter. She had to leave for school. So I'm gonna read what she wrote. My name is Ashley Austin, and I would like to take the next few minutes to offer words in support of my uncle, Wilton McGee. My uncle went to jail when I was 4 years old. Even despite the barriers of incarceration, He always prioritized our relationship and made sure to stay in touch with me. My uncle is deeply kind, patient, and has an unwavering sense of responsibility. He has stayed connected to all his family members and has continued to offer advice and guidance, even from prison. Even while physically absent, he is a source of strength to our family. I'm not proud of the crime my uncle has committed. While I realize that the crime he has committed can't be excused, he has shown much remorse for the act he has completed. Numerous rehabilitation courses. He has shown that he would not be a threat to society by having good behavior. Granting my uncle clemency would allow him to return to his family as a mentor and prove that people can change with the help of others and a system that cares. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you sharing that information with us. All right, Mr. McGee, your case has been assigned to Mr. Tillis. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right, sir.
Good. I read through your file and I saw where you had a lot of confrontation with your wife. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
The conversation you talking about that led me to prison?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Well, it was all my fault, actually. I was supposed to be walking my mother. I was at my mother's house and was supposed to be walking her to the store. In the neighborhood where we at, it's bad, so that's why I had my gun. I did something that I normally would never do and never have done. I was letting my 4-year-old son hold my gun. And my wife, we had done already, in the past, talk. She didn't like guns, and she saw my son holding the gun, and she took it and gave it back to me. Me being stupidly and wasn't thinking, I gave it back to him, and my mom called for me to go with her out the door. And as I was loading it up, my wife didn't know that the gun wasn't loaded the first time when my son had it. I'm assuming she thought that I was loading the gun up to give back to my son, but I was loading it up to walk out the door with my mom. And she approached me, and she was doing what a normal loving mother would do, was getting her son away from danger. And me not thinking, and when she come over to me to grab a gun to get me off, well, to get the gun from me, at that moment, I wrongly thought that she was a threat, and I shot my wife, which there's no way in the world I was gonna shoot my wife, the woman I love, the woman that I was supposed to be living with the rest of my life. And that's what happened. I just snapped, and when she was trying to take it, and I shot her.
Said that you were also drinking. You were drinking that day?
Yes, sir. I was drinking and on pain medication.
Pain medication?
Yes, sir. I had just come out of the hospital like 2-3 months. I couldn't walk. I was on crutches.
So you admit to when she became a threat. So you fired a couple of rounds at her.
Wrongly, I thought she wasn't a threat. She was just a mother doing what a mother would do, getting her son out of harm's way. And I was just acting stupidly, wasn't thinking.
I see. Okay, I have no more questions.
All right, Mrs. Stapleton?
Yes, so back to that gun situation. It says that you and your wife had a long history of multiple violent, life-threatening altercations throughout your marriage, which included stabbings and different things like that. They weren't just little fights. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so in this situation, you said that you were gonna walk your mother-in-law to the store. She was there.
My mother, I was gonna walk her to the store.
She was there. She was present when this happened.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the little 4-year-old son who you gave a gun to, he was there, right?
He was, yes, ma'am.
Right there. And then your wife, who else was present?
My nephews
Nephew.
and my niece, they was 3 and 4 at the time, I think.
So you had a room full of little children.
Yes,
So here
ma'am.
we go. And this is what this says. His account of the present offense, the subject admitted to firing his weapon multiple times until it could fire no longer. He reported having fired the gun with his eyes closed and knowing that anyone in the residence or outside the home could have been killed due to his actions. So you didn't just
Exactly.
fire straight at her and it
No,
wasn't
ma'am.
just times.
No, ma'am. I just closed my eyes and started firing.
At somebody you thought was a threat, that was your wife. You know, that doesn't make any sense. She didn't have a weapon in her hand, right?
No, she didn't have a weapon.
Okay, so there you go. That didn't make any sense. So that's all my questions.
Let me ask Warden Grimion, is there any input you can give us? And then we'll hear from the victim's family.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. McGee arrived over here in 1997. He's got one disciplinary report that he received in 1999. Since then, he's went through several programs, would include anger management, 100 hours, substance abuse, victim awareness, and letter training. And he, for years, several years, he has been a orderly over there at Camp J, and what currently he still is.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I want to advise you, Mr. McGee, there is opposition. We'll hear a moment from the victim's family, but the District Attorney's Office in East Baton Rouge has expressed opposition to any favorable consideration. You need to be aware of them. So let's hear from Ms. Miosha Williams now, please.
Hello.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Miosha Williams, and I was Pamela's youngest sister. So around the time that all of this took place, I was about 5 years old. I remember my mother tried to kind of, shelter us from everything, but she used to keep all of the newspaper clippings. And I remember being 5 years old, going through the newspaper, reading that my sister was shot 8 times in front of her son, who is my nephew. He came to live with us after Wilton killed her. So I remember being 5 years old, sneaking and reading and having nightmares about the things that I'm reading in the newspaper about eight shots, or like if she was a threat, yeah, that's one bullet. But for you to empty the clip into a 5'2", 130-pound woman because she's a threat to you, it just makes no sense. Your family can still communicate with you. You can write to your family. You can call your family. You can talk to your family. I don't have that. You want clemency? You did not give my sister clemency. You gave my sister no mercy. I watched my mother cry many nights. I watched my sisters cry many nights. I watched my brother cry many nights over a domestic violence situation that turned deadly. I'm opposed to you getting out because every day I'm reading about domestic violence. People are getting killed. I don't think no one should have to go through their loved one getting killed and having to relive it after all these years you know, because you want to come home and live comfortably. My sister doesn't have that option. My sister can't come home. Like, that's all I have to say. I think you're right where you belong.
Thank you. All right, Ms. George?
Yes, hi, how y'all doing?
Please direct your comments to the board and not to Mr. McGee, please.
Oh, I was directing it to y'all. I'm opposed to it because, you know, at the age of 4, that was my first funeral. And I think, you know, besides the victim's family, Stephen McGee, her son, he is suffering the most out here. You know, every day he always puts a post on Facebook about seeing his father kill his mother in front of him. And that has mentally messed him up. And that is very disturbing for a child at the age of 3 years old to grow up and remember that sight. And he is following his father's footsteps, and that man does not need to get out. I don't have nothing else to say.
Thank you for taking the time to share those remarks with us. All right, I think that the board is prepared to vote. Mr. Tillis?
My vote is to deny.
Ms. Stapleton?
My vote is to deny due to the heinous nature of the crime and the number of other victims that could have been involved, secondary victims.
Mr. Prater?
Deny.
Mr. Freeman?
I vote to deny, victim and law enforcement opposition.
All right, Mr. McGee, you've received 4 votes to deny your application for clemency. So today your application has been denied, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
That concludes our business at Angola. It is noon. Thank you. Thank you, Ward.
Thank y'all.
Okay, we have one more agenda item under new business this morning, and that is consideration of our board policy number 02207 entitled Capital Cases. This is regarding a stay of execution on the process for someone to, once a death warrant is received, to apply for a stay of execution. We have, this is our policy. We have actually sent promulgated the administrative rules that's going through the promulgation process that has been completed. During that process, there were no public comments that were received. What this essentially does is the board will act as it once a death warrant has been issued and the condemned is requesting a stay of execution, also known as a reprieve. The board will act as a clearinghouse for that application, be sure it's in order, make the necessary notifications that an application has been submitted, and then to forward that on to the governor's office. So the policy that you have in your packet does require some technical revisions, but I am asking for approval of the policy and concept.
Okay, I recommend that we do accept the policy and concept.
We have a motion by Mrs. Stapleton. There's a second by Mr. Freeman. Is there any objection to approving the policy? Hearing none, the policy is approved. Well, that concludes our business for the day. We're going to adjourn. It's 12:02.